ladies and gentlemen, we're on the CX panel discussion on digital transformation for the next generation CX. With the next wave of emerging technologies such as AI, blockchain, IoT, VR, AR, it will be a whole new set of digital transformation across different industries from financial services, retail to healthcare and transportation. All industries will be transformed and upgraded in UX and innovations towards the next generation CX. Well, the next generation CX is about engaging customers at the right place at the right time with the right service and the products in the most intimate and the authentic manner. Well, this panel discussion will cover what are the current CX pain points that are limited by current technologies and should be addressed by emerging technologies. Which emerging technologies like AI, blockchain, IoT, VR, AR will deliver on the new capabilities for the next generation CX? Which customer touchpoints on the unified offline and online customer journey will deliver the great values in terms of CX? What will be the right balance of the capabilities for humans and machines to collaborate to provide next generation CX? And what will be the new KPIs for the next generation CX? Well, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists, we're joined by Nick Deo of the Strategic Customer Experience, Bukalapak, Indonesia. Well, Nick is somebody who's equipped with 10 plus years of experience in e-commerce, and he's currently working as a strategy customer experience at the Bukalapak. We're also joined by Chut NOOSY, the country head of customer experience Grab Indonesia. Well, Chut's her current role involves designing the customer experience in every customer journey through related touchpoint, implementing, assuring, and overseeing all omni-channels, both online and offline for multiple stakeholders. We're also joined by KASPAR SITUMORANG, the Executive Vice President, PT Bank Rakyat, Indonesia. Well, KASPAR, a digital enabler for Bank RBI, a former regional program manager at the Silicon Valley's hardcore DNO specialist with a 13 years demonstrated history of working in the software engineering, telco, and banking industry. We're also joined by Gustavo PEREIRA, the senior data scientist, Spotify, Sweden. Well, Gustavo currently works in creating meaningful user segmentations at large scale, and these segmentations are used to improve the experience of users. And ladies and gentlemen, this entire panel discussion is going to be moderated by Dr. James Ong, the Managing Director, Artificial Intelligence Institute, International Institute, Singapore. Well, Dr. James has 30 plus years of experience in technology and strategy advisory services in Asia, US, and Europe, advising many Fortune 500 companies on enterprise digital transformation across multiple generations of technology evolution. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, now that we have all our panelists on the stage and screen, I'd like to hand it over to our moderator, Dr. James Ong, for taking it forward with his panel today. Over to you.
Thank you, BHAVANA. Thank you, World Customer Experience Summit, for inviting me to moderate these sessions. It's my privilege to be able to join a distinguished set of panel. Actually, before I invite them to share and discuss, I'd like to say that I actually look forward to this session because I've always believed that customer experience is important for the last 20 over years since I've been in technology. I believe that customer experience will deliver not just on customer satisfaction, it will deliver customer value, and ultimately you will deliver on customer loyalty. Today we have a banker, Mr. KASPAR SITUMORANG is a banker. We also have a worldwide app, Spotify, GUSTAVO. I think you guys are probably familiar with that. You have not heard of it, something is wrong. Then we have Chut NOOSY. She's from Grab. Everybody knows about Grab in Southeast Asia. And I think she's going to share a lot about her experience dealing with different regions, as well as we have Nick, who is Bukalapak, major e-commerce providers in this area. So with such with this laying groundwork, today we're going to talk about next generation customer experience. It's not just about current, but also about the future. It's about technology. So with such, maybe I would like each of our so-called, of course, we have MILLIE who's going to join us soon from StanChart. I'll let her get ready. I'm going to have Nick start first. We're going to do the first segment where each of our panel speaker will just share for 2 to 3 minutes. Just keep your time about your viewpoint about the topic today, about customer experience and technology, and some example of some of the things you might be doing. Nick, you want to start first?
Sure, James. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I hope I can add some value to the discussion today. So I'm Nick. I'm a customer strategist at Bukalapak, basically a Indonesia-based technology company that tries to help to create a fair economy for all. We started basically 10 years ago as an online marketplace, and like Buka means open in Indonesian, and Lapak means stall, so it's like open your own stall. But over time, we've added a lot of different products and services. So by now, you can pay your electricity bill, you can invest in gold or in stocks, or you can buy your train ticket through the platform. So we have a multifaceted users and services. So in terms of size, I think we've served more than 100 million users and 6 million merchants on our platform and 6 million what we call mitra. So those are the local pop and mom and pop stores. And basically I have the honor to look at, okay, what are most important things we can do to improve the customer experience for each of these users we have. And you asked me also a little bit about my viewpoint regarding CX. I might be a little bit biased, but I really think this is probably the most important battleground of this decade. It might sound a little bit dramatic, but I really believe that. So I believe that those companies that will really deeply understand their customers and adapt their products and services to their changing needs, those will be the ones that can grow sustainably. Basically, you know, you have the transactional loyalty and you have the emotional loyalty, where transactional loyalty is more about, well, it's per transaction, so you can sort of bribe it, right? You can subsidize the transaction, you can give vouchers away, but it's not maybe a really sustainable way of keeping your customers, because as soon as you stop, they will go away. So I really believe in the emotional loyalty, because that's really strong, and people will not necessarily leave your platform if you make a little mistake, or if your products may be slightly more expensive than other platforms. So yeah, basically, if you ask me, I think focusing on CX is maybe the only strategy that really makes a lot of sense in the long run. So that's a little bit about my vision on CX in general.
Thank you for setting a high bar. That means we are addressing the most important problems in the next decade, right? I love to hear from the rest. The next one, I would like to invite NOOSY. She has a beautiful name. I'd like her to share her perspective for 2 to 3 minutes. Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you everyone for having me here. So actually, maybe my part is easier because before our session is the keynote speaker, is basically my boss. And he explained a lot related with the Grab and also where's our focus, right? So as Paris already mentioned as well, so Grab currently already become the super apps. Previously, we started become the apps for ride hailing, but now we already expanded to the deliveries, and then now on the health and also the financials, right? With collaborative with many of our partners, and as our customers, right? Now we have like a multiple stakeholder. We have passengers and also eaters as our customers. We have our drivers, partners, and now is our merchant as well. So basically, we are really focusing on digital inclusion, especially in this pandemic, right? Because you know, we believe that the digital inclusion is the key to reach various customer segment, and we believe that it will sustain the industry even beyond this pandemic, right? So for in that one, we believe that customer experience is also the key, as Nick already mentioned as well. But for us, if we want to grow this ecosystem and give various impact, right? Definitely they have to get the benefit for the digital itself. As the first stage, they have to be very comfortable in our apps, meaning that we have to creating the best customer experience for them in their journey, so they can get the maximum benefit and also creating the impact not only for their lives but also for the overall Indonesia, because currently we already, as Pariski mentioned, focusing on the UMKM. UMKM is the small business enterprise, which already give like 60% contribution of Indonesia GDP, right? That's a lot, but only 16% that already in the digital platform. So that's become definitely our focus, and correlating with customer experience, that's become our focus as well.
Okay, thank you, NOOSY. Next, I'd like to have Gustavo, all the way from Sweden, to share. I'm sure, Gustavo, you get to share Spotify to the rest of the audience in Indonesia, the largest economy, the fourth largest economy in the world. Yeah.
Yes. So, hello everyone. Thanks for having me. So, I'm a data scientist, and in the presentation said I dedicate myself to user segmentation. Why? Because we believe that understanding the different groups of users and how we create those groups of users according to how they behave or what they do on the platform is very important to how we serve them. So it's always, whenever we do these decisions in data, it's because we're thinking about how the customer will experience this. So it's not the same if you actively curate your music than if you just sit back and let the music come to you. So we need to take that into consideration and create experiences in the app that cater to all of those needs. So people think Spotify, it's just an app for listening to music. Yes, but everyone has their emotional connection to music in a different way. And it could be also a moment of the day where you're cooking, or the moment of the day when you're on your car trying to get to work, or now during the COVID pandemic. What do we do with those people that do not have the car anymore because they're not going to work? So all of these things need to be taken into consideration, and through meaningful user segmentation, we are able to provide meaningful customer experience.
I see. Okay. First of all, thank you. Thank you for joining us all the way from Sweden. Next, I'd like to have Kaspar to share about his perspective. Of course, the next two persons are all bankers. They are the money people. Love to hear from you.
Thank you, James. Jude, Nick, Gustavo, Millie, very honored to be here, I think this afternoon. My voice is clear, James?
Yes, super
all
clear.
Right. Awesome. So the viewpoints, I think, from our bank about CX, CX is one of the fundamental components to create a faster, better, cheaper financial products to our customers. Since Bank Rakyat Indonesia is the largest microfinance bank in the world, so therefore, since 2017, we have invested a very big amount of investment for establishing these capabilities and install it within the organizations. So one of the examples, I think, clear examples that we've already able to pull this CX and impact to our top lines and also bottom lines is we are able to accelerate the loan delivery from 2 weeks before 2018 to now it's only less than 2 minutes. So basically customers right now just scan their face, scan their ID, money dispersed in less than 2 minutes, James. So this is one of the beautiful impact, I think, of great CX as a fundamentals to create a faster, better, and cheaper financial products to our customers. Back to you, James.
Okay, thank you. Next, we are very glad to have Millie from Standard Chartered. She's the global head of customer experience, and she actually joined us all the way from New York. We are very glad to have you. Millie, you want to share a few minutes of your perspective?
Sure. Thank you for having me. And it's definitely been a whirlwind year, especially with some of us who might be on a different time zone from where we're supposed to be working from. So my perspective on client experience is really about, it is the most important thing and instrumental in any organization and any business, especially in commoditized businesses like financial services, where competitors are constantly trying to fight on price. They're competing on price, and it's essentially a race to the bottom. So instead of continuing to race to the bottom, pivoting and really looking at the client experience to differentiate from that perspective. And one of the key ways is through emerging technologies, as well as just existing technologies. So for the existing technology, of course, to process improve things, but the emerging technologies is the key piece. And in terms of, for example, connected homes, connected devices, smart homes, the future of retail, and the types of emerging technologies that will be incorporated into there, that's key and instrumental in terms of the experiences, and especially within financial services. But I think you could say that across the board. The other aspect is that a lot of up and coming organizations, as well as some of the tech giants, they're all creating ecosystems. And so it's important for established industries like financial services to start to recognize that in the future, we're no longer going to be the movie stars, but instead will be the supporting actresses. And we need to integrate into these ecosystems and into these experiences to enhance the experience. For example, with Grab, that's actually the example that I use quite often, integrating into their experience and driving value, the value of companies like Grab. And then it will start to trickle to those other organizations that are in these ecosystems to drive the revenue and to drive the growth. The other aspect that I think it should be noted is around 5G.
Okay.
In established industries, a lot of companies, they think, oh, 5G is just going to speed up my existing book of work, my existing processes. And I think that's really short-sighted. Instead of looking at what do you have today and the immediate tomorrow, but what can you dream up into the future? Because the future is not as far as we may think. For example, with 5G, it will help to create more connected devices, connected experiences, make that mainstream and more cost efficient for no longer giving access to only the affluent, but to the masses. And what does that mean from an experience perspective? That we better speed up in terms of creating those experiences, even if it's just experimenting.
Okay.
So I think I could probably go on and on, but I'll
Yes.
leave it here for now.
Very interesting. You actually have pointed out two things. One is about ecosystem and one about new technology like 5G. You're ahead of my question, which is good. I mean, you're really ready for some of the next set of questions. Maybe we can get a little more specific. The next segment, I'd like to get into a more open discussion. I'll kind of like move around all of you. The next question is, I'd like to know what is the most exciting CX project you're working on secretly, such that you can share with us, but without sharing us all the secrets, okay? I'm sure every one of you are working on it, according to Nick, right? This is the most important thing, right? So I want to randomize a little bit. I want to start with Gustavo. Gustavo, share one thing about you're doing on CX that is a secret weapon, but kind of enough, but not too detailed, okay?
Yeah, that's okay. And it's a PEEV project of ours is dynamically creating experiences through AI based knowledge. So you know your app adapting to you.
Okay, interesting. That means you're saying is that you're going to wow the user with user experience that they don't even know or you don't even know, but it's going to happen. Something
Yeah.
like
So yes, trying to get what the user needs at the time. So not just in recommendation in music, but the type of experience in the apps. So if you need more radio-like experience, then you don't need all of the buttons that create playlists.
I see.
So the app adapts to you and just presents a simpler interface for you, and so on.
That's the keyword. How do you provide such a simple user experience so that it's brainless to use it, right? Okay, good. Thanks for sharing. That's a secret project. Maybe I go with NOOSY. NOOSY, you want to share a secret project that your boss may not even have shared yet? Sorry, I can't hear you. I think you need to.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, my boss have touched a little bit. So we have the team that we call Grab for Good, right? So basically, that how we collaborate between the customer experience, the technology, right, to support and give impact on the COVID and especially for the post-COVID. So that's become our focus as well, right? So definitely working with the government is one thing that's super important. And the second one is the preparing technology. Definitely AI plays significant roles there, not only in terms of the customer support, but in all the journey that we have. Right, currently we already have AI behind in every customer journey. For example, when the customer registration in our apps, until, for example, if you taking the Grab car and then you get the fare, right? There's already like AI things behind. And the other thing that we will doubling down definitely is the hygiene part, because definitely the post-COVID, I mean, the nature of our customers is become more the hygiene conscious, right?
Okay.
And sometimes they become the limitation for them to use our services. So how we making sure that they become safe in our platform, right? We have Grab Protect, right, for the transportation, and we also have for merchant that we provide some analytical on how they can improve their sales by doing all the hygiene things in the checklist. So, and for the support, definitely we will be focusing on the automation, and because we should find the balance between the automation things and still the human touch, right? So that's become our
I
focus.
see. It looks to me, Noozy, I need to work harder to really uncover this. Give me a little bit more. Okay. I'd like to move to Nick, because both of you are in, I can sense that from the Nick's introduction just now, all the provider are expanding into all kind of services. You might be competing against each other, right? So are you working, what is a secret project you're working on to improve customer experience? Are you okay, comfortable to share?
I have so many secrets to share. No, yeah, I think maybe maybe it's not such a secret project, but I still believe that where it is interesting to look at, you know, AI, machine learning and stuff, how you can improve the general holistic customer journey or the support part. But I want to, you know, also move a little bit back and say, okay, but if you still get a lot of customer contacts, thousands per day, that means there's still a lot of people that basically give you free advice, right? You get thousands of pieces of advice every day for free on how to improve your business because something is wrong. So I think what I tried to focus on together with many of my colleagues is how are we able to take this voice of the customer and bring it back into the organization to the right person that can actually prevent this problem before it occurs. So it's not necessarily a secret project, I would say, but it's still very foundational, very basic. I think there's still a lot to gain there. So that's what, outside of the AI stuff, you know, we're working on.
The word I take away from your description is one word: preemptive, right? Kind of preemptively do something for the customer, right? I think that's where my takeaway. So now I want to address a secret project with the two bankers. We have KASPAR and MILLIE. This is interesting, right? It's about money and etc. KASPAR, you want to share what are the secret projects on customer?
Well, I try to mask it, not so obvious, I think, but let me try to do that, I think. So we've been focusing, I think, a lot in the millennials, I think, especially on the tier 2, tier 3 cities all over Indonesia, especially the sons and daughters of fishermen and also the farmers. This is the millennials that we are targeting really hard since 2017 by the penetrations of agents banking of Bank Rakyat Indonesia. So we focus on creating some of the best O2O, online to offline tech, and customer experience as well, in order to be able to capture whatever they want and whatever they need in those rural areas. You know, millennials are significantly less loyal to the current financial institutions than previous generations, James. So millennials are 2.5 times more likely than baby boomers, and 1.5 more likely than, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Gen Xers, I think, to switch banks. So this is according to CB Insights. However, I think these millennials in those segments, the tier 2, tier 3 cities, the sons and daughters of fishermen and farmers, I think they're attracted to brands, and they also admire, as consumers as long as those brands possess values that match their own. Therefore, we need to work much harder on understanding these generations and appealing to the needs of them to attract and retain, I think. And since 2017, I think we must claim, I think we are pretty much successful, I think, on the agent banking of Bank Rakyat Indonesia by the name of BRI Link. So agent BRI Link. Back in 2015, the volume of transactions is only a couple of billions rupiah. Since 2018, it started to hit the 500 trillion rupiah. Back in 2019, it started to hit the 750 trillion rupiah. End of this year will be hit 1,000 trillions, James. So it's the key behind this was a very great CX, I think. So this is the combinations of online and offline. You know, we're trying to think about the stereotypes of their whimsical spending habits, right? These millennials are just as budget conscious as other generations. However, these millennials are also proving to be, you know, fiscally conscientious generations, I must say. So we must help them to get out of these unique financial pressures, and with their digital first backgrounds, millennials who live in the rural areas are looking new ways to manage their incomes, debt, and also future savings, James. So specifically, what can I say in this forum? I think millennials are trying to embracing the automations and machine learning capabilities to help them and advancing toward the saving goals without having to think about it. So where such services is usually provided by fintechs or any neobank outside this Indonesia, for example, we tried to bring these capabilities since 2018, and now we're able to accelerate furthermore, I think, on the retentions through this by the name of BRI Brain, James. So we create back in 2018 a neural net of microfinance. Okay. We have the largest neural net microfinance at Bank Rakyat Indonesia. We coined it as BRI Brain. So by the help of this BRI Brains, we are able to help this customer of us, especially the millennials in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So they are able to manage their income, debts, and future savings machine learning ways. So they don't have to think about it. We provide A, B, and C. So it's like paint by numbers to them. I think that would be that I can reveal to you, James.
Actually, my takeaway from KASPAR, I learned something. If there's something uniquely Indonesia, which is like young people, rural, digital, right? It's that combination of things that is uniquely Indonesia, and it's a huge market also. So I think there's something there. I think the audience will be able to get some value and learn something from it. Love to go to MILLIE. MILLIE, you're the global bank. You are the global head of customer experience, right? So I'm sure you deal with a lot of issues. You already mentioned some of the secret things like ecosystem and 5G, right? Any particular project you want to point out that is like you can share?
I think you already just answered it for me, that I already pointed it out. Those are my secrets.
Exactly. In fact, when you mention it, I smell something because I 100% agree that the approach to innovation right now is through ecosystem, because there's no one company can innovate, and you have to work with different stakeholders, like what NOOSY has mentioned. So I think that is an important strategy for innovation and also for customer experience. And maybe any specific you can share a little bit, like what you're doing, an ecosystem where you're focusing on in Asia, in Europe, on the US. Anything you want to add to that?
So I'm working really closely with our global head of partnerships, and on a global level perspective, we're looking at different types of partnerships for Fortune 50 companies or Fortune 10 companies, and trying to see how can we create ecosystems, or how can we start to co-create certain solutions so that we can help the unbanked, the underbanked, and really focus on helping not necessarily only our clients, but people who are in an inequality type of situation, whether it's through an economic inequality situation. How do we help pull them up from those scenarios? It may not be successful for everyone, but at least having some type of efforts and tools that we can give to that population to help them to better themselves.
Well, I love the word inequality, right? So now you are really approaching beyond just traditional customer experience. MILLIE, you're always ahead of me. In fact, that's one of the major questions we're going to ask later on. Okay, that makes my job a lot easier. I think we have answered that part. I'd like to go into something more concrete before we get into the advanced topic with the time we have. I already can see some question coming in already. The next question is more like the other way around. We talk about customer experience, what you're looking at, solving the needs, right? I'm looking at technology, right? So I would like to know where are the in terms of emerging technology, where do you see as the game changer to change customer experience to be the next generation? Again, don't worry about right and wrong. I'm just curious. I think the audience want to know from you, because every day you have to make decision, right? Which one should I invest in? Which one I should understand and study? So I see that NOOSY has nodding her head. I'm going to let her start on that. NOOSY, you want to answer this? Technology? Your sound is off. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think I already touched a little bit related with the AI, right? So AI definitely will play more ahead on that one. So as I mentioned that we're focusing on in every journey of our customers. So how we can improve the AI there. For example, for the safety things, right? So now we have like many of feature, selfie for decks, selfie for packs, definitely for the safety issue. And during the pandemic that we allow the deck selfie using the masker, so we enable that kind of thing, right? And then now again in the pandemic that people needs to have like social distancing. So if we see our drivers is like together more than certain numbers, then we can have that alert, and then we can send them that kind of message as well, right? So that's one part. And then the second part related with where we are going to focus on. So as I mentioned, we are focusing on the post-COVID as well, right? So on that post-COVID, so definitely how we can increase more the benefit for our merchant. Currently, during the pandemic, we already onboarding like more than 4,500 450,000 merchant in our apps, right? So basically for that, for certain merchant, we see the analytic that it can improve their sales more than 40%. So that's something. So we believe that we have to be elaborate more. So we are aggressively onboarding them. And also how with our AI, how we can, help them to increase their sales moving forward. So that's basically.
And also, let me be very specific. I think I want to get a good answer is that among all the technology, AI, blockchain, IoT, AR, VR, 5G, among your technology portfolio, which is your number one?
AI.
AI. Okay, good. I'd love to know that. I'll go to Nick. Nick, what are your technology? It will be your first priority.
I think from Bukalapak side, I think it will be any type of forms of AI as well. So
why AI?
I think we have multiple types of users, right? We have the end user, which is the buyers on our platform. We have the merchants, and we have the mitra, the mom and pop stores. But also, we're in Indonesia. Indonesia has, I believe, 17,000 islands, hundreds of languages, a lot of people with different backgrounds. So there's no one size fits all for your app or for your product. So it needs to be tailored. And I think the only scalable way of tailoring experiences and CX will probably be forms of AI. And obviously you can automate all kinds of things with that as well. So that will be my answer.
So you're saying is it because AI is the vital technology to develop, to kind of scale this experience, right? Across,
I think so, yeah.
Which is something that I know Gustavo has mentioned before. Gustavo, please jump in with your Spotify global challenges, right?
Yeah, so to what Nick is saying, imagine replicating that throughout the world, not just 17,000 islands, but doing that across different countries and across the world, of course. So what I've been working a lot with is, of course, we will do AI, but I've been working a lot on what is now being called XAI, so explainable AI.
Okay.
So, not just because we need AI, but we need to be able to understand the choices AI is making for us. Because every day, AI needs data, and every data input that you have is probably biased somehow. You did something to the data, right? You processed it some way, you gathered it some other way. And so you might be inadvertently introducing biases and ethical issues behind what you're doing. So through the ability to explain what we're doing, we are able to understand who we are failing as a company. And so there's always this choice between doing what is marketable and doing what brings in more money and what is right. And so we tend to want to do also what is right mostly, and then if it makes us money, better. But we believe that getting the right choice will eventually create loyalty. And so there's always in the designs that we do, we try to bring in an ethics perspective. So who are we leaving behind? And if we don't, we can discuss, but then we put it in data and we blindly trust AI, then we're in for big problems down the line.
Okay. And by the way, Gustavo, I am 100% agreement with you, because this is the research that I work on every day. Okay, we are in alignment. Also, you gave me a new inspiration right now. I'm going to come up with a term called explainable customer experience. That means you can explain how do you make customer feel good, right? It's not just
so that's what I'm working on. I create user segments, but we're doing it at scale. So we need to understand why we have those segments, because we're using AI for that. So who are these customers and why? Why does the model decide that this customer is of this certain type?
I'm going to propose to the TriceCon, this conference organizer, we're going to have a special forum just on this particular topic. I think that's important, because the thing about explainable AI is totally relevant to KASPAR and MILLIE, because they're in the financial services. I think that if they want to build the trust to me using AI, for example, you better explain how do you make a decision to buy this product, right? For example, KASPAR and MILLIE, feel free. Any one of you can jump in and kind of share your current strategic technology priority, right? Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, James. I think the customers these days, they want their banks to be sentient and engaging, understand what their focus on life, needs, goals, anywhere, anytime, in real time. So a trusted and transparent solutions and a modern and frictionless, it's much more appreciated these days, I think. So we've been establishing a huge amount of investments since 2017 on three things, James, on technology sector. So the first one is absolutely on the automations on the back end. That's the number one, I think, because handling 1 billion customers, handling 120 billion transactions per day requires a huge amount of automations on the back ends, I think, because whatever CX you created on the front end, when the back end sucks, then everybody stop, I think, right? So the automations, heavy investment on automations is one huge amount of investment that we've already made since so far. On the second part of the coin is, of course, the AIs. I mean, the explainable AI, especially explainable, because we're in banking, we cannot flip the coins and get the results, right? Especially in the financial sectors. We need to know what is the repayment capacity, what is the default rates, and so on and so forth, in order to be able to onboard specific customers on the financing, investments, and also on the payment sectors, I think. And the third one is, playing in the digital financial transactions sounds like very cool these days. However, the financial cybercrime, it's killing these days, I think. I mean, from the intelligence that we've gathered, I think, for the past 8 months in the pandemic eras, in Indonesia only, it's already increased about 30 to 38%, I think. So wow. we've been investing a lot, like really a lot, on this, how to handle the cyber crimes, not only on the front end, the middlewares, also to the back ends, I think. Not only on investing on the predictive, but also on the prescriptive technologies on the cyber crimes as well, because I think there's another research saying that the cybercrime has already up to $20 billion a year, James. So this is like a different kind of market, shadow banking underneath. So this is something that all bankers, I think, focus on spending their dimes every year. So those three things that we've been investing a lot on top of the UX. Back to you, James. James?
While we're waiting for James, I can chime in a bit. So AI is important, but I don't want to just go along with the crowd. No offense to my colleagues here. But I do want to highlight other types of technologies that are just as important. It's around biometrics and authentication. Outsiders, we may think, well, that just seems so simple, and it's just this one tiny piece of the experience, but actually it is the key to the experience. Right now, banks are heavily scrutinizing their security level to the point where, quite honestly, some banks have made it so difficult for users to make passwords because you have to have, a symbol and a number and then a capital and then a period and then a dot and then all of these different things that how are you ever supposed to remember this password amongst 1,000 other passwords? So biometrics can help us once we continue to develop it and create more intelligence around that, of course, using AI, but of course, using other types of technologies behind in the background as well. So how can we authenticate using biometrics across multiple different types of devices? No longer just your laptop or your desktop or your mobile device, but then also through your connected devices or through, for example, if you go to a physical space to make a payment or to go to the branch. And this actually, I really think it ties into what Kaspar was talking about, the cyber attacks. And actually, Kaspar, what I found out is that coronavirus this year is the cause for 230% more cyber attacks on banks worldwide. It is severe and significant, and it's not something that we talk about as much as we should. So I do think with biometrics and AI and all of the other types of emerging technologies, it'll help us to create a more secure place. And the goal will always move. And I think that's kind of why all of us are saying AI, because AI will evolve, our experiences will evolve, criminals and fraud will evolve, and the desire for more personalized experiences will evolve. So we must always continue to evolve instead of a traditional sense of, let me set this one thing, and for the next 18 months, I'll work on it, and the world will not change for the next 10 years.
I see. I think I just dropped off because of the Zoom problem. I'm back in again. Hello. If I guess what Millie has just said, it seems to be all five of you actually point out AI will be your first technology priority, which is not surprising, which is very interesting. I think from this discussion, we have come up with a new industry terminology called explainable customer experience. I think that is very good. I think there's a new topic started from this discussion today, right? I think
I called dibs on part of the monetization of that word.
Okay, wonderful. We should work together and actually advance this and actually share with the audience. I think this is very interesting, right? So I'd like to go into a more advanced topic. In fact, we only have probably like 10 more minutes, unless there's no question from the audience. I think we have some question from the audience. Request the MC send me the question again because I lost them when the Zoom crashed. MC, please help me. While at the same time, I'd like to move in an advanced topic, which is something that I think both Millie and Gustavo has mentioned. It's a free format. The topic is about the more advanced purpose, right? I think Millie mentioned inequality, right? How do we deliver customer experience that address social purpose? Gustavo talking about being a data scientist. Being a data scientist, how do you, he has a very strong core values about ethical use of the data, right? So, and then he actually went beyond. I mean, the scientific work is not just about building customized customer experience. He actually feel that there are some value that he want to assert in the market, basically, right? So, and I think I point out to many of you in the earlier session, there's a movie on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, which is brought out by many of the original product manager at Facebook, Google, and as well as Twitter. They talk about how social media can be used to create a customer experience that deliver addictiveness to the teenager, right? I think we want our customer to be addictive, but what is the line that we draw, right? And I'd like to hear some comment from any one of you about this area. Feel free to jump in, man. Yeah, just raise your hand. Okay, Millie, I think you are dying to show something. Good.
Of course, dying.
Yes, go.
So in terms of data and the customer experience, I think first and foremost, our most important rule to live by or principle to live by is to do no evil. Similar to one of Google's ethos, because we owe it to the world and we owe it to our customers and to people that are in our community to be responsible for the data that they trust us with. And that definitely ties hand in hand with what you were just referring to in the gamification. How much addiction do we go? How far do we go? It's up to us to still make sure that, you know, there's good in this world and we don't do evil by that. That might sound naive, but I do think that we have the power to go and do it. So why not?
We need to be a global player.
Go ahead.
And so the minute you become a global player, you're setting up a standard. And so if people start believing that you're not doing good, then doing no good is seen as something that can be done. So you're normalizing the doing no good.
Hey, Gustavo, are you picking on me for being American? I purposely did not vote for a certain someone.
No, not at all. Not at all. I tend to avoid politics in this discussion so that I can get into the States next time. No, going back to being a little bit more serious is we have the responsibility of treating our data that is entrusted to us because it has monetary value, just like that. So there's even in the future, there's going to be your data curator as a profession. I'm quite sure about that. So people will curate your data. Or if you start reading the latest science fiction, people are already speaking about having teams of people curating your feeds. So that your experience becomes very personalized and very uniquely identifiable as well, so that fraud starts disappearing, right? Your signature is all of your biometrics, the way you speak, the way you type, the way you look at stuff, the rhythm of your life. And all of that we will be able to capture because data is becoming free, basically. Data storage is almost free right now. So what is what the expenses right now is how we incorporate all of that, how we make it meaningful. So
so maybe I can jump in. Yes, James. Kaspar. So maybe I will do first, and then Kaspar maybe can add on it. Yeah. So basically, it's a challenge, and as well when we decided to become the super apps, right? Means that from the data perspective, definitely there will be a lot of data, right? Data from our customers, right? And then as one movie say that with great power come great responsibility, right? It's our responsibility to protect the data, comply with that one. Not only related with the monetization, but the most important thing, go back again to our principle to get the safety, right? So, for example, that currently as simple as we doing the number masking. So for a passenger and driver, they can still communicate without knowing the real numbers, because that's actually one of the things related to the safety, right? So yeah, so and then a lot of things that we put our investment on the data protection as well. So definitely we don't want that our data is being used by any some hackers or something that can be backfire to our ecosystem. So basically, we call it Grab defense. So Grab defense is more to how we defense on our data. We responsible for that, not only for the external, but within our internal as well. So that's my thought about it.
Good. Kaspar, you want to share something?
Yeah, so I think we need to go to the why first, right? Why we go to this far, I think, because I think the customer is not loyal, James. So because the customers are not loyal, they're only loyal to something as long as it suited their goals, needs, and wants. So we created this data, advanced data, or call it next-gen data, contextual analytics, I think, in order to be able to create millions and millions of segments of things and provide a better personalized solution for them, I think. So this is the challenge that today. However, I think as the bankers, we are always constraints of some of the regulations and some of the hefty regulations, whether internationals or also locals in Indonesia. So we always bound by those safeguards, I think. So, however, at this day, if you are not able to use this next generation data and advanced analytic capabilities to helping them meeting the expectations in context of at the right moment and on the customer's preferred endpoint, then you're losing the games, James. However, so I agree, I think, with MILLIE and Gustavo. I think we're doing this as to serve them, providing a greater good, I think, for them. And by providing this best journey possible, offering a thoughtful and deliberate navigation for them to the endpoints that are really comfortable with them all the time, 24/7, I think. So this is a tough challenge. However, I think the whole technology is there. You cannot say technology is not there to create a safe environment for everybody, I think. So yeah, the why is millennial and customers are not loyal. So we have to we go to that far to create this advanced loyal management systems in order to go and improve the retentions. Because at the end of the day, James, lots of customers love to get addicted. Addicted is good as long as it's for positive inbound and impacts. That's my 2 cents, I think. Back to you.
Yeah, actually, it's a very interesting question to follow the flow to Nick at Bukalapak, because Kaspar has mentioned, right? I think NOOSY as well. The population in Indonesia are young, lots of rural, digital native, right? How do you build the right balance of loyalty versus addiction, right? Basically, across different channels that you have. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, great question, James. And I agree also with the other panelists have said. I think it is a fine line between what you want to do if you purely look at your financial gain or your competitive edge versus that's not how you want to behave. So I think one of the ways Bukalapak deals with that, and I think in most of the companies, especially in Gustavo's that I'm aware of, is you need to bake in some kind of responsibility in your company values. So for example, with Bukalapak, we have fair economy for all. That implies that you want to be fair and ethical. So that means that within the culture, you try to give people permission by baking it into the values and the things that you say internally, is that it's okay to speak up if you feel that something is a little bit over the edge, or it's not okay to do that. And I think if you have this culture to speak up about that and hold each other accountable for that, that's probably the only way. You cannot rely on external factors to say, hey, this is not right or wrong. You have to bake it into the company culture.
I'll come to some interesting topic if we have time. There's one more topic, but I want to address one of the questions from the audience now. In fact, funny thing is that the question is actually in line with what we are talking. It turned out that the question actually is addressed to Gustavo, but I think it's applicable to all of you. The question is, with the looming data scandal in the big tech, I think they're talking about Facebook, Google, how Spotify is different from other tech giant company when it comes to ethical data engagement. I guess it is for Gustavo. It's relevant for all of you.
I think it's relevant for everybody. So number one is at Spotify, we believe we're doing something that is inherently good, which is just providing music to you. And so music is this very emotional, very deeply rooted feeling. That's I don't think there's ever been a human being any time in history that hasn't listened to or created some sort of music. So in that respect, it's very hard to do harm by serving music. However, we do get a lot of personal data available sometimes when we're doing our research through third parties sometimes. And we as employees, and I'll give an example where I was a participant, we were getting data that we did not want to see, and we actually asked the third-party provider to delete that data because it involved very personal choices that we did not want to do or be even able to see by random chance. And the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Cambridge Analytica was doing very interesting data gathering. They just did the wrong decisions into how to treat that data. So the analysis of Cambridge Analytica was really interesting. How they put that data to use was the non-ethical part. And so we made the conscious choice of, you know what, we don't want to see that data. And every time we do design, there is the ethical discussion behind the design. So who are we leaving behind? Who are we misrepresenting? Who am I harming by doing this? And it is ingrained into our culture of, we don't say do no evil, but there is, okay, this is an ethical issue at the very beginning of any discussion.
So Gustavo, to a certain extent, this is what you can do as an organization and a culture, right? I think like Millie has mentioned, don't do evil and etc., right? So another question is, how do you deliver that customer experience of trust, right? I mean, yes, you are doing it, but I do not know. See? I think NOOSY has mentioned, how do you make the customer safe? Eh? In fact, there's a term I like to use, how do you deliver all this thing in a very silent, simple way? Eh?
If you're doing your job, I keep saying the same thing. This is the one time where if people are not complaining about it, it's because you're doing the right thing.
I see. Okay.
All right. So it's a typical security issue. Oh, your boss calls in and says, I don't see any problem with security. Yeah, exactly. I'm doing my job. Thank you.
I see. Okay. Cool. Anybody want to try give an attempt to the answer?
Yeah, so maybe I will try to on top of that one. So basically in our case, so again, trust is very important, right? And then for us is two sides. One is related with our culture. So we have for each culture, one is honors, means that even on top of that is for data violence from our internal is really put it in the OKRs and also the code of conduct, and the implication if our employee breaches that one, definitely up to termination and plus legal implication. So that's very strong in our company. And then we really double down on the GRC. So how we can comply and govern related with data integrity, right? And then for our platform itself, we have what as I mentioned, the Grab defense. So previously, many people try to gaming in our platform, right? So even some bad DEX drivers, right, try to gaming in our platform. So that's why we have the OKR say the fraud score as well in our platform. So that's embedded in every organization. So that's to say that how serious we are on the data protection.
Okay. We have probably 1 minute left for any one of you who want to just have a quick response to this. Anybody? No? Okay, so I'm going to move into the closure of this panel session. I'd like to have every one of you to share a 30-second last statement about today's topic of discussion. Then I'll wrap it up. Maybe Kaspar, you want to conclude with a 30-second? What you want to let the audience know?
Yeah, sure. I think from our perspective of Bank Rakyat Indonesia on the customer experience, ultimately, a great CX is the fundamental components to create a faster, better, and cheaper financial products to our customers nationwide. We accelerate loan delivery from 2 weeks to 2 minutes because the customers really needs it, especially we've already established it before the pandemic happens. And now after the pandemic happens, the growth is just immense, I think. So this is something that we should able to predict in the futures. How can we keep improving the CX as one of the secret sauce of any smart and also capabilities that we need to instill within our organization. So we believe in the next futures, I think AIs and CX will be blended into one syllables, I think, by the name of explainable customer experience. Thank you. That's all from me, back.
You're the largest bank in Indonesia. Wish you success. Nick, you want to give a 30-second?
Yeah, sure. So maybe in general, I think CX, there's always a battle between CX and financial result, it seems. But actually, if you think about it, CX is delivering the financial result in the end. So in order to create some type of urgency, what I like to do is to trigger certain state of mind. And one of the questions maybe the audience could use internally as well is, okay, what would you improve immediately about your product or service if you know that tomorrow the president is going to use your product?
Wow.
That creates some form of urgency, and that puts you in a state of mind at which you're like, oh shit, oh, this little thing, that's what I'm a little bit ashamed of, or shit, we can do better. So that would be my closing thoughts.
Okay, you raise the bar to the president being your user. Okay.
Exactly.
Rosie, what are you addressing for the president? President on yours?
No, yeah, basically, again,
30 seconds.
on top of our president, that our president wants that Indonesia is become one of the largest economy later on digital economy, right? So I think we are on the right track, means that we believe the digital inclusion is the key, right? Because we have the various customer segments, especially on suburban as well, and it definitely will sustain the industry beyond this pandemic. And as I mentioned before, that to support this one, the CX is really important, and CX will be more optimum if we use technology. AI is one of the example, but the most important thing is how we can use the technology, right, to improving the CX in everything of our customer journey for our customer segment.
Okay, Millie, your 30-second last statement.
Sure. Don't forget the employees. Employee experience is just as important, if not more important, than CX. Because if you can use technologies, make their lives easier, make them happy, it frees up from any types of frustrations they may have to really focus on those unique and delightful surprises that they can incorporate into the customer journey along the way.
Okay, wonderful. Millie, you always have something new to add. Gustavo, you have the best and the last, right? Any 30 seconds wrap up before I wrap up?
Oh, wow, that's a difficult spot to be put in. But we are moving towards a more digital world everywhere. So every generation is becoming more and more digital. And even when we're moving into spaces where digital is just starting to happen, or where big chunks of a population don't have easy access to digital, this is becoming more and more normal. So we need to start thinking about all of that growth happening. So, Millie today mentioned signing up. Yes, signing up is a big part of the process. So if you're asking for an email for somebody that doesn't know what an email is, you will not get the customer. But they know what the phone is. So make them sign through their phone number or stuff like that. So start thinking about that before it even hits you in the head.
So, Gustavo, one of your job at Spotify is to make sure every people in the world can have access to music whenever they want to, right?
Yeah, so our mission statement is 1 billion users.
Okay.
And having thousands of artists live off of their art. So yes, we're striving for that.
Now you know why I put you on the spotlight, because you're from Spotify, right? So I had to
Yes.
get the spotlight, right? So thank you very much. I'm going to kind of wrap up in a sense. I actually wrote down quite a few things. I think every panel we want to have something productive, right? I learned a lot from all of you. I think I took note of something. I think all came from you. I think the ecosystem is a way to innovate on customer experience. That's one. I think the things about ethical values, about inequality, social purpose, right? Democratizing music and etc. is also another conclusion I have. Last but not least, I learned a few terms, and then we together collectively innovated on a new term called explainable customer experience. It's never been done before. Actually, it was coined in this particular WCXS, right? So this is something unique. We definitely want to let the whole world know. And I hope that we can create very good, simple, silent, and explainable customer experience, and then make people feel safer. So this is my conclusion for the panel. BHAVANA, you want to take over? Thank you very much to all of you. I hope the President of Indonesia is watching it. We have great talent to help to make Indonesia a success. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. James. Thank you, Jude. Thank you, Kaspar, Gustavo, Nick, and Millie. Thank you so much for giving us your valuable time and joining us today.